this is just a hornier version of the Matrix, which is saying something.
Yeah, Matrix is pretty horny.
Honestly.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of A Ghost in the Magazine. I'm Elle,
I'm Mel.
And I'm Al.
and today we are covering the 1985 sci-fi horror Lifeforce, which, interesting movie.
It's like a horny old man got really high. Excuse me, he got really high and he watched Xanadu, Event Horizon, and Nightbreed all back to back and said, I could do that. And then someone gave him the funding to do that and then talked Sir Patrick Stewart into doing that. That's what this movie is.
Yeah, it was like we watched it together or something because I was getting the somebody horny got high vibe
Yeah.
too. Except for my thing was more like, two horny guys got high and one of them
Yeah.
was, hey bro, what if we had a movie about a chick in a glass case in space who just sucks you dry upon meeting her, but in a sci-fi way.
Yeah, you had like the horror bro and the sci-fi bro, and they both got really, really like high on mushrooms, and we're just like, but bruh, what if? But what if? And that's
So,
what this movie is.
the interesting thing about this movie, it is based on a book. Um, And the book, I stayed up till 2 a.m. last night reading it. It is not very long, and it's not very good. Let me be honest with you. As somebody who has read, I actually just read John Saul's The Presence, which is another like horror sci-fi
Mhm.
novel, um, that has similar things because in that book, there's like alien seeds that come down to Earth, and then people react to them because they're like proto like alien DNA things that react badly to human DNA. But like this one, they went another route. They made these aliens be something that could like become corporeal. The book was incredibly horny, like 50 times more horny than the movie, I would say, at
Oh, wow.
least. Maybe it's just because I could see in Carlson's head as he was doing these things that made it
Yeah.
more horny. But Carlson is a cardboard character, as is everyone else. There's no character development in the novel. I really think, and I do have some of the author's books besides that one that I bought on Kindle last night. And I think that he's more interested in exploring his existential theories of the supernatural than he is actually like telling a story. And it really showed because he said he was trying to spoof H.P. Lovecraft a little bit with this. Like I was reading an article about it. Which yeah, you got some cosmic horror elements to it, but the prose reads more like Agatha Christie to me. It's very dry. I think that the movie actually like the beginning was so promising. Like the imagery that we had, it was
Yeah, especially for like 85. Like it looked like a
yeah.
cool, like that had that like Event Horizon-y, like alien type of slow build up thing to it. But it was like the first like the moment he made a comment about the naked woman in a box was when I knew it was all over. And that was like 5 minutes in.
I'd say she's perfect. I've been in space for 6 months and she looks perfect to me.
Oh, that part was so horny. The chick astronaut was just like, like she had zero response. I don't think she had a single line.
No, I don't think she did.
Honestly, in the opening, I was like, is this Star Trek? Because it really felt like Star Trek.
It yeah.
Yeah, track vibes. Yeah.
But another thing is that they send up a shuttle in the movie after this one that ends up going which is very different than the book, but the shuttle with the aliens on it that they bring in ends up getting burned up inside because we find out later Carlson did it trying to kill the aliens so that they couldn't get to Earth. But they send up the shuttle Columbia. As somebody who came of age in the around the new millennium, I remember the shuttle Columbia, what it's famous for. So that was I was like, yikes, that's the one that
Yeah.
blew up on TV.
Yeah.
It's like the Xenon, those old Disney Channel movies where they use the term pop an O-ring for something that's bad, which is what happened to cause that shuttle crash was that an O-ring broke and they're using that casually like it's just like an insult of like, oh, she's about to pop an O-ring. And it's like, this is a Disney Channel movie.
What
Like,
super specific idiom. And
right.
Yeah.
that's
Like it had that vibe, that same like this is very bad. But yet at the same time, like, okay, I guess we're just gonna go with it.
so did you guys see Mick Jagger's brother?
Yes.
Yeah.
He
Yeah, he like
looked like a
so
model.
built the whole time. Like he never straightened his head. I don't know
And
what that
everyone was so sweaty. They were all old and British and sweaty.
very sweaty.
They were so
So
British.
sweaty. They were so British.
The other thing I didn't get about that though, so they send the Columbia up, which is an American NASA spacecraft, and then they
Mm.
just give the bodies to the European Space Agency. Excuse me? Like, I just don't see America doing that. That's not very American of them. I feel like that we would like Bogart them here and then it would be another entire story. But the book was set in London, so I think that's what they were trying to aim it that way. I just didn't find that very believable.
I mean, we
No.
do like off-putting our nuclear waste. So
Well, that's true. Maybe
That's true.
somebody was just like, "Yep, this is too dangerous."
they're
Oh,
like, oh, got this.
I heard there was a hot woman, naked woman on board, and I don't see her. We don't need these. Send them back to London. Like, this is not what we need. This is not what we were promised. Ugh.
The best
What do
thing
you got?
about these, though, is they're like Colin Robinson with extra steps.
They are. They are. And not even like a cool like okay so they make out with you a little bit but ultimately like you get like electrocuted that doesn't seem fun so
Yeah. Also, like, I was offended with how many times we got to see titties and ass, but we didn't get to see anyone hang dong. I'm just saying, like, we should have had reciprocal dong hanging. That's all.
I agree and I don't want to see Dong but I agree
Mm-mm.
that portion
Yeah.
yeah even that one electrified lady had like full bush so
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I don't want to see the dong, but I feel like it's incomplete without it, you know?
yeah like is this a semi porn or not
Yeah. With how horny all of the men were, we should have had at least one dong.
I think
Yeah.
so.
At least one. Yeah. It was it was something. It definitely had that like 80s ethereal thing going on with everything was like slightly weirdly lighted and all the women had like just like weird like robotic like Blade Runner like they were like not quite human and they just like oh you're just a prop and they remind me of like working at the bookstore of like seeing all the old like 80s sci-fi and romance come in the same box and it's like I can't tell which cover goes to which honestly because they look exactly the same.
Oh my God, the
80s.
cover of this book too. I
I'm
won't
sure
be
it's
able to show you guys,
insane.
but I will screenshot it and send it to you guys later.
Yeah,
It's ridiculous. It definitely has that 80s like schlocky sci-fi
Yeah.
vibe to it. So they bring these aliens down and there's three of them and they go into this facility in London and the woman wakes up while this guy is like ogling her, which is very similar to how it happens in the book. And she sucks him dry, which is what we see in the background of Mel there.
pretty dry yeah
Yeah. And then she just like ends up getting out because she kind of like they have this like hypnotism thing that vampires do have, so that's very on point. Um where she's like able to kind of overpower, I think he's like the boss of the facility or something. He's some important dude. I don't fucking care. But like so she's walking out and the guards come at her. And what I thought was hilarious was that guard that tried to offer her his dirty ass sandwich. Just like I've taken like several bites out of this with my dirty teeth and it's probably like full of like weird brown sauce because I'm British, but here you go.
I mean yeah he was like here you go. You want a little piece of dirty sandwich? It's like, bro, she is like a man eater. She's out here eating souls. You're offering her white bread. Like,
Her full titties out.
so I was like, eat that one. Get him.
I had a really hard time remembering that there were others besides her because he kept saying
Yeah.
that there are three, and I was like, the what now?
Yeah,
I
those
was like,
guys
when?
waited. And one of them got successfully blew up. I mean, they kept saying, we don't know how to solve this, how to get rid of them. Okay, you blew one up and you poked one in the stomach. Seems like those things worked. You like, just do that. I don't know. It seems simple. They let it
Yeah.
get in with their horniness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My like note on that was like I think that the old guard is gonna die of horniness, like the 4-hour boner thing, like where you have to go to the hospital.
Ah,
And
yeah,
then
Yeah.
yeah, I could see that. Mm.
Yeah.
and then like some colonel or something, I don't know, some important military guy comes in and he's interviewing the boss of the facility and he's like, "Tell me how the girl overpowered you." And the answer is pretty much I had a massive boner and I couldn't move. Like
Yeah, and love. He was like, also, I felt, I don't know what to call it. It was like love. I just can't explain it to you. It could have been love. Like, what? I mean, everybody's having like some type of malfunction trying to describe love, a basic human. We should have left those guys in space. That's all I'm saying.
I will say that in the movie, Dr. Falada, he was actually kind of a cool Vincent Price-esque character. In the book, not so much. Like not so much. He comes in and he has like this obsession with death or like the afterlife or like the life force is where they get that term from. And in the book, he's kind of like that, but he's into this like psychosexual shit, and he talks about how he does these experiments for to read people's lambda fields, which I think is like kind of an auric thing, like what your aura does. And he was talking about how like vampirism is like established throughout all of nature, and like anytime you have sex it's like some kind of like energy exchange, but it's more mutual. And then he shows this experiment with the a moray eel and a octopus where like they're chasing each other and their lambda fields do different things. So that's where they got that from. It's not hashed out in the movie at all.
No.
But they're just like, you like death, don't you? And he's like, hell yes.
Yeah. I kind of wanted to I wanted the bats to like make a resurgence. Like I wanted one
Yeah.
of them to,
Turn into a
I don't
bat.
know, come back to life. So I'm guessing they just totally, you know, desiccated this one species that they found and took their ship, right? That's their ship.
That's what I would think. Yeah. I mean, in the
Yeah.
book, it's not, because in the book there are these weird, because he leaned really hard into Lovecraft. There are these weird squid creatures that are like in the walls of the ship, and that's who they actually are. And then they can like mind meld into different things and like turn shapeshift and all this other shit. So, yeah, it was a lot. I think that he could have just like picked a lane and gone with it.
Yeah, it's a lot of, again, it's that you have the horror bro and the sci-fi bro of going, no, they need to be aliens, but no, they need to be vampires. Why not make them both and make them all hot? Like that's, and everyone horny for them. That's kind of that vibe. Because I would like be listening and like watching, be like, oh, they're talking about vampires now, and oh, they're aliens and it's outer space and they've been here before. And I was very
Yeah.
confused.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
I was
the
They
very confused.
element where they're trying to be like explaining humanity.
Yeah, or 15 possible scenarios that could happen after necrophilia. Because
Yup.
that's basically what it was. They were like, is she alive? Is she dead? I think she's dead. Let's touch her anyway. I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Um, and the other thing is when these corpses like go either they seem to like kind of like go nuclear on their own and like blow up, or like if you smack them, they're like full of cat litter, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah, the corpses in general, every phase of them was hilarious.
Yes, they were so cool looking. But the cat litter thing does have. I found a part in the book where the aliens explained that they were silicon based and sand is silicon based. So I think that that's where they got the cat litter idea from.
I didn't hate it. I didn't have it,
Mm-mm.
and with any of the props or the set really.
Mm-mm.
I like the hordes of electrical zombies. I was fine with that. Yeah,
Yeah.
and the acting was not super terrible.
The
No.
script was awful, but let
Yeah.
me be honest with you, they took a lot of the conversational stuff from the book and it showed. And the book was also very dry conversationally as well. It was just not great source material that wasn't like they changed it. So the book is in like 100 years from now type of
Hmm.
future. And the movie is set in 1986 during the last passing of Halley's Comet. So
Yeah.
that's the other thing is like I was like, is this contemporary? But it makes more sense because the book is like set again, like the one of the guys that they try to interview was born in 1987, so he's slightly younger than me, being born in 85. And he's like 95 years old at the time.
Hmm.
And so it was it was definitely a shift, but I do think that it made it fresher because the way that somebody from like the 70s or 80s described the future is nothing like how it even is right now. Like it was definitely antiquated.
It was hard to keep up with who was who because they were all just a bunch of old men in suits and they kept rotating them out. And so I'd be like trying to figure out like which one is this and why are they here? And now Sir Patrick Stewart's here and I can't tell if he's been here the whole time. Like
Yeah.
I can't I could have
He
trouble keeping
wasn't
up.
because I waited for him. I was waiting for Patrick Stewart.
Like,
He looked so like young, old. Like he had
yeah.
like I guess because he's like been old probably all of our whole lives.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and like, but at the same time, it was still like 30 years ago or whatever. So he had
Yeah.
like a big face, like it was
Yeah.
kind of bizarre. I liked it.
He's got that
Because
Steve Martin thing where he's just always been old. Like
yes.
Steve Martin has always looked old. And same thing with like Sir Patrick Stewart. They've always just
Mm-hmm.
been old.
Well,
Like,
and
Pattern.
this is 2 years before TNG. Like two
okay.
freaking years before that even. I had to like look it up. I couldn't find anything, but I was like, did somebody see this and be like, we have to cast him in Star Trek?
Yeah.
That's that's my
That's
my honest wish.
Well, I mean, that's what happened with George Clooney in From Dusk Till Dawn, is he was only doing TV stuff, and then From Dusk Till Dawn happened, and people were just like, "Oh, he can be an action star." And then, even though that movie tanked, now everyone's like, "Oh, George Clooney, he's hot, and he was in a Tarantino film coming after Reservoir Dogs, and he's gonna be a big thing." And so, I mean, Sir Patrick Stewart could have gotten Star Trek from this abysmal, horrible nightmare of a wet dream.
that's
Like,
true. A lot of crappy 80s movies have cult following now,
mhm,
Hmm.
even though nobody liked it when it came out.
Yeah.
yeah,
I think this was one of those. Nobody
Yeah.
liked
It tanked big time. Like it lost a lot of money too. And you could tell that they put money into this because
yeah,
of the effects. Um and Patrick Stewart, but I mean, I still think he was pretty popular. He'd already been doing a bunch of BBC stuff by then.
yeah.
So
right.
he was probably a pretty big name even then. And he says this line in when they come and talk to him and he says anything to oblige, Commander, and it just brought me to Star Trek. But it's hornier than the Dr. Crusher episode where she pretty much has Lasher. There's an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation
I know
where
which one it is.
Dr. Crusher has a family ghost that she inherits, and it is so much like Lasher.
It is so hard to be hornier than any part of Lasher, any part of the narrative of Lasher. So, I've got to kudos for that accolade. That's
Yeah.
definitely a superlative that many don't achieve. This
Yeah.
was like one of the hornier things. All the like
Oh.
penetration imagery and just everything with the wet dream. Like nobody wanted to admit it. That was like, I don't know, man. She, came to me in a dream. Like She like
And
hypnotized me. It just was like,
and
we
they're all
get
panting,
it. I mean, come on.
The
the
dick
heavy
chip.
breathing, and everyone's sweaty and like, yeah, no, it's
And
love.
then like in that scene where he goes where he like confronts that lady that he thinks that the alien is in, he's like choking her and smacking her around, and he's like, she wants me to, I know she does. And in the movie they really don't set that precedence that he can read minds. Like they really don't
No,
set that until that point, so you're just like, yeah, right,
Yeah.
bitch, you're just horny.
Yeah.
yeah,
I kind of had regressed that part. Honestly, I had expunged it from my memory. But yeah, he just starts smacking this lady around. And I'm like, okay, like, hold on, guy. He was like, no, no, wait. She wants this.
the other
Oh,
guy's like,
oh,
I like voyeurism. I'll
oh,
just
I
sit over here
love
in the
that
corner.
part. Sat right back down and like crossed his legs and was like, oh no, do go on.
That's right from the
That's
book too.
honestly,
No.
I'm like, have to? Can't we just, can't, like, I don't know, something else, offer something? Like, everybody's good for some cash around here.
And then they think it's in this big guy that has like, he said like the intelligence of like a 10-year-old in the book. I don't know if that's where they kept it in the movie. I can't remember. But as he's in there, he suddenly realizes it's actually in Sir Patrick Stewart. And so he gets him in the neck with what they say in the movie. Like he made up a drug in the book, but that is the drug that one of the drugs they give you for lethal injection. The whatever, I think it's pentothal. It's a barbiturate that they use as part of the lethal injection cocktail. But he gets Patrick Stewart with this through his arm, I think, the first time, and then two in the neck later to take him down. And he lays him out on a table and they have this battle and he kisses him. But what's funny is that he's beating the shit out of him. And the guys, they're just sleeping. They don't care. I sleep when you're beating the shit. But when you kiss him, that's gay. I got to pull you off. Like, what the
I
hell?
thought that they were ready to watch the whole thing go down, murder, electrocution, whatever was going to happen, but they drew the line at dude on dude kissing. They absolutely got in there and broke that up at the risk of their own life. I was like, no, no, let's see what happens here, guys. Come on, let them kiss.
Yes.
Let everybody else make out.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. I was like, hey, it finally got interesting.
Otherwise, he's just screaming. Lots of
Yeah.
screaming in that scene. And it's
Confusion.
all from Sir Patrick Stewart.
I turned it down.
And then
I
Percy
did too. I
breaks
had to
his
turn it
neck.
down.
He gets thrown into something, I think. I did it. I just saw him passed out, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, he's dead. So
I think he got thrown into a bookcase.
yeah. Got thrown into something.
Yeah.
But rip to the very British man named Percy Heseltine.
Something broke his neck. They were like, oh, I think his neck's broken. You might as well stop that CPR.
I think that's where I was. Well, maybe the helicopter scene was where I was like, okay, this should have been the end of the movie because I'm bored. It was very long. So
It was so long.
at this point, they put him in a helicopter to take him back to London, but they're like they're seeing this as a plague because it's turning everyone into these corpse zombie things that are trying to like eat everyone else. And the scene on the air in the helicopter with the blood coming out of Patrick Stewart.
Art.
Like the eye
It's
hole.
pure art. I can't.
That was gross.
It
And
was
the
insane.
like,
Yeah.
he was not gonna do anything about it. Why did they like kick him out that giant open door or something? They just watched.
Yep.
I was like, that can't be good. We're gonna let it go on though.
It's because they like voyeurism. They just like to watch things happen.
That's true. He did say that. He did say.
It's a character arc. It's just story, it's character development. That's all it
Well,
is.
hey, that is more than the book gave us. So, and then it like turns into a bloody chick. Like the girl materializes in the blood, and I don't know what the point of that was because then she was just a puddle. I don't understand what the point of that scene was, but it was weird.
They had the budget.
Men realize that women have like skulls under their hair because like anytime you see like a stone representation or a clay representation or like a blood representation of a woman, like the blood it makes the hair too. I'm
Yep.
like, why wouldn't she just be a bloody bald skeleton? I mean, there. I mean, like even Medusa with the stone. Like, I'm just trying to think of one that didn't have weird hair. So the hair was super off-putting for me with the blood. Why does she have hair? I didn't get that. She doesn't need that.
And
You
right
need to know
after,
which of the vampires it is. You have to know it's the hot one.
it's the hot one, yes. It's not Mick Jagger's brother or the other guy.
Yeah, the other guy.
The other guy. Poor other guy.
The other guy was just trying to have some fun. When he showed up and found them like having their little life force sex, he was like, "Hey, you better stop that. I'm gonna come down there, or maybe watch for another 5 minutes. I don't know." I mean, he really he kind of let that go on for a lot longer, knowing that it was like a soul per second.
The next scene when they're going to go visit the colonel and everything just starts to fall apart and they just like almost do that reverse the scene thing where they're just like, oh, we're just gonna walk back out to the helicopter that hasn't shut down or anything and nobody's gonna really do anything about it. It felt so like an old like sketch comedy bit of like the Benny Hill music should have been playing in the background as they're like walking back to the helicopter and nothing's happening and everyone's like falling apart. I'm like, what is this? What was the point of this scene? Because nothing happened.
Yeah.
Nothing happened in that entire scene. It was, especially after the helicopter thing, you're just like, what is going on? I'm
Yeah.
so upset.
I think the helicopter thing, now that I think of it, was all just a setup for the guy to admit that Carlson, to admit that he pretty much all of this happened because he was horny. That's where
Yeah.
he just like explained the all of the stuff that happened. And apparently they cut out a lot of the scenes on board the ship, which was funny because it seemed like there were a lot still. But yeah, the whole ending is whole cloth. So pretty much past the point where Patrick Stewart dies, where they encounter Dr. Armstrong, that is where the script writers just decided they were going to finish the movie instead of going the way that the book went. And it is convoluted as fuck. It makes no sense.
It very quickly turned into like 28 days later for like 5 seconds. And
Yeah.
then,
It,
okay.
it went very zombie toward the end.
It did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree, though. They could have basically took a pause after he said, when he discovered them, I haven't seen a woman in like 6 months, and then just cut to the end because that was the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then they have like this resistance. I feel like I don't know why, but it almost feels like in Anne Rice books where she's trying to like slow the pacing down, like it's going too fast, so she just writes a couple of chapters that are just stupid shit that you don't care about, where they're like, oh, you can't go in because it's a quarantine and all this other stuff, and there's just all of this fake fighting because they're gonna get in. It's not even really a resistance. They're like high level clearance on everything anyway. So they get in and they find this bitch in some spooky cemetery, crypt thing where he bangs her and then they get hit with Dr. Falada's sword, and that's apparently the sword is what kills them. They're aliens, but they don't like swords.
Yeah, he while he's banging her, double penetrates them both with the sword through
God,
their like bellies, which I mean, aliens hate getting poked in the belly. I mean,
you can't stab them in the heart. That was explicitly stated. It was explicitly stated. You can't stab them in the heart. It doesn't work. It has to be 2 inches underneath, which is funny that they said 2 inches because they're British.
So,
oh my God.
Because he blew up that one and that worked. And also shot that one in the face on the way over there, and that worked.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I see what the stupid sword was even about. He couldn't even get his hand around it. He had to like two-hand it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that
symbolism.
In the movie, it's like, oh, I've always been a vampire. I just didn't know it or whatever. And like, so that's why I had this psychic link to her. Okay, first of all, don't drop that there. At least give us hints at the beginning of the movie or something.
Right.
So that like, because they really didn't even lean into him being a special little boy, that can read people's minds until like he started beating the shit out of someone and they had to explain it. Like, in the book, it is so much more because he's like he's inhabited by a type of alien that knows the type of alien that they are and lives in the same star system, and he knows exactly what they're doing, and he's there to foil them before they eat all of Earth, because that's what they're going to do. They just like desiccate planets. They just go and eat all the life force out of everything. And so it made more sense, although it was a huge, massive information dump at the end that again was laced with his existential philosophy. That was not fun to read. And I was very tired at the point that I got to that. So the movie probably did about as good as the book did, if I'm being honest. It was incredibly unsatisfying on both counts.
I wanted to see how it ended. I mean, I wasn't like trying to turn it off in the middle. I was like, oh, what are these idiots doing? Like, how's this going to play out? And, a certain type of bad movie can become sort of good when you like shift over to rooting for the villain. You're like, yeah, kill them all, like kill the whole planet. Earth does really suck. And then you're kind of having fun with it.
It was a long 2 hours.
It was. It really was. But it's something like this, you invest so much into it, you're like, I've got to see how this.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. You won't get those 2 hours back.
Yeah.
But
nor the rest of the evening where I decided to read the book. But hey, that's on me.
Yeah, because nobody asked you to do that.
Yeah, for me, I was just like, this script is so bad. What is the source material? I have to see the source material. And I went and looked at it and I was like, oh, I see why.
Yeah, where were the rest of the aliens on the mothership the first time? So when the ship came to like collect her and the souls,
yeah,
that implies there were the rest of her kind there. How come they didn't encounter them when they first went through the ship?
I'm not sure what their mechanism is. Yes, that's actually probably it for the movie. For the book, the ship was like intelligent on its own to an extent, and there were other people in other coffins. But again, it wasn't really like they're just bodies in there. The actual like intelligence was these squid things in the walls. So
yeah, I guess I'll take it. It's not any more ridiculous than the rest of it, so I'll take it.
Like, I mean, how is that any different from the Matrix? They're just bodies in pods and everybody's uploaded into a system, and it's like, this is just a hornier version of the Matrix, which is saying something.
Yeah, Matrix is pretty horny. I mean, the thing is there are a lot of very interesting elements to this story, and the special effects are hilarious and I love them. I was so excited going into this, seeing space vampires and like Lovecraftian. That's like totally my jam, but it was incredibly unsatisfying at the end. Like I would give this 2 chuds.
Yeah.
I'm at 2.5 because I started to have some lulls, I was like, because it just started to get a little like past that meter of ridiculousness. So I'll still give it that 0.5 for enjoying it a little bit. So
appreciate that. Yeah.
Like this was an endeavor, somebody like wanted to edit nothing. They were like, nothing comes out. We're producing every inch of this script and screenplay, you guys. So, I mean, I gotta commend that. But at the same time, would I watch that again? Like you would have to like space suck me to get me to do it. So no.
Yeah, no. It definitely had like Nightbreed vibes to it, but I would much rather watch Nightbreed again over this.
I don't think
at least that one had weird Jim Henson puppets. Like this one's just got naked women. Like
that part, yeah. There are very few female speaking lines, and the ones I think the Ultimate Vampire is the only one who has speaking lines. Like everybody else is, hey, Commander, like if she says anything. So that was really unsatisfactory. I was like, no wonder you guys are so horny. You've like erased all the women out of the world in your lives. Like I don't know.
Like even the Colonel's receptionist, I don't think her face was ever shown. Like she like followed him into that back room and then got sucked dry, and that was about all the more point that she had.
I don't think so. Yeah, the woman astronaut definitely didn't say much.
No.
And there was a woman attendee when that guard got eaten, and she didn't say anything either. So yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that part.
So you can find this podcast on the internet at ghostinthemagazine.site. You can find us on Twitter at GITM Podcast. You can find me at Nocturnical.
You can find me at Hedda_Mel.
And you can find me at Maybe Mockingbird.
Okay, bye.